sudden you can't really, all of a sudden, you can't hold your bowels. I'm sorry to be gross, but that's where I was at. And that had never been a thing before. And so I thought I was dying. So I'm going to the hospital all the time, completely dehydrated, but good old Burger Hospital never thought to give me fluids. I had no insurance, so of course I'm being told, oh, well, you're just a drug addict looking for drugs. Because obviously, all drug addicts looking for drugs go in and say that they have symptoms like severe diarrhea. Okay, Jan. But that's the way I was being treated. And then, literally, like a week before he got out, my grandma brought me to the hospital down here. Yeah, the same one that almost killed me back in August. But at the time, they were a much better option than Burger. And this doctor does this CAT scan on my intestines, and he comes in and he's like, I can't officially diagnose you without admitting you, and they won't let me admit you, but here's the scar tissue in your bowels here, here's the scar tissue in your bowels here, and he's showing me, the CAT scan. He's like, you have Crohn's disease. He's like, I don't know where to send you because of you not having insurance. I don't know how you're going to get treatment, but I know what's wrong with you. It's Crohn's disease. So maybe I had heard of Crohn's, but I had no idea, just like with the Wilsons, no idea what the hell it is. So I went home, I looked up the symptoms, and it's like, oh, shit, I think I have Crohn's disease. But he gets out. Now, keep in mind, he was in a jail like 2.5 hours, and my poor grandpa got up at like 5 in the morning to drive me to get this motherfucker. My plan was let him come home, let him have, a nice meal, a nice day, and then by the end of next week, I am going to be single. Period. Well, he comes out, and for about a day, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, he starts bitching about being at grandma and grandpa's. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm staying. And he goes back to my sperm donor's house. And then I'm like, well, fuck, there we go. Like, I'll just tell him now. I call to tell him, like, we're done. I'm super excited about it. And he tells me, well, my child that I haven't seen since she was 6 months old, her mother is dropping her off here today. And I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't know anything about kids. So, of course, lures me right the fuck back in. Because I went there. She was asleep on the couch. We're talking a little 2-year-old baby, okay? She had not seen him since she was 6 months old. So she knew absolutely no one. And her mom left her asleep on the couch. So she woke up freaking the fuck out, as one could imagine. And, of course I start comforting her. Quickly figure out that she really likes tattoos. So we start having, a little conversation about my tattoos. And she's looking at all of them. And I let her color them in with an ink pen. And all that jazz. With that child, I finally got that love at first sight that was in that goddamn relationship. That was the only love at first sight I ever had in that relationship. Because that day, my heart fucking melted. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't leave her. So, like, all right, I'll stay the few days that she's going to be here. Like, hopefully her mom will never do this again. Blah, blah, blah. Well, her mom starts leaving her more and more and more. And then she starts telling stories about the way that she has been treated. So we go to a hearing in the county they lived in, about 2 hours away, to discuss temporary custody and who it should go to. Of course, they give it to Sean. So now, this motherfucker who couldn't even handle a couple of weeks with an 11-year-old has a 2-year-old child that he's supposed to take care of. Furthermore, he has this child at my sperm donor's house who used to beat the hell out of my brothers he actually lived with briefly. And his old lady who used to beat the hell out of my childhood best friend, her child. I actually watched them do this as a child. So, of course, I'm like, where am I going to go? I can't leave her. And I start making plans to at least get out of my sperm donor's house and get to Grandma's. So, Grandma had just moved. I helped her move. The daughter was with me the whole time. He was not. Of course, there was work to be done. And we get up there, and he goes back, and I'm like, well, I'm keeping her here while you go back there to them. And he starts faking a heart attack. Wasn't the first time he did that, by the way. And he starts, oh my God, you gotta come back. You gotta bring Electra and come down. I'm like, no, we're not coming down there. So if you want us, you know where to find us. And of course, like gum on your shoe, like herpes, he just came back. This was in August of 2009. The whole custody situation was made official, like paperwork finished, signed off on type official, in September of 2009, after, the CPS worker came and the counselor and her guardian ad litem, who had unfortunately been with her all of her life because a case had been opened since her then 8-year-old sister was a small child. Like the guardian ad litem frankly knew those kids better than their mother did. But that I'm not trying to bash her, it's just true. And so October of 2009, or no, it was November, it was the night before Thanksgiving. But throughout that time, he's getting more and more aggressive with me. And it's like, what the fuck is going on with him? And he blamed bipolar, and he blamed this and blamed that. And I'd be like, well, go see a therapist then. Like, thanks to your child, you actually have medical insurance. Go see someone about it. And of course, he didn't want to do that because, of course, it wasn't the bipolar. It was the fact that he was working up to putting fucking hands on me. And he wanted to see, a little bit at a time, pushing you. How much will she take? That's what was going on. Standard abusive psycho bullshit. So the night before Thanksgiving, 2009, his daughter woke up because she slept in the bed with us. She couldn't sleep alone. It freaked her out. And she woke up just hysterical, which happened a lot. Getting her to bed was torture. Keeping her asleep was torture. She couldn't sleep to save her little life. And I had to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I hear that her screams are suddenly muffled. I jump up midstream, go in there, and he's legit holding her head into the bed while she's freaking out trying to get air. So I fucking pushed him off her, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And this motherfucker turns around and hits me in the face. This room was completely black. I could not see where I was aiming. I did not care, honestly, where I was aiming. I punched that motherfucker right in the eye and gave him a black eye. And I was so proud of that black eye because goddamn did he deserve it. Now, this motherfucker, please keep this in mind. At the time, I had dropped down to about 120 pounds. I'm 5'5". This motherfucker is about 6'1", and he weighed a good 350 pounds. None of it muscle. Um, so when he would come after me, he definitely physically had the upper hand. But that just happened to be a lucky shot in the dark. And I'm like, dude, I didn't know what to do. Because it's like, I cannot stay with someone who just put his fucking hands on me. But then on the other hand, I'm sitting there thinking about what he did to Electra. Now, it's also, to his daughter, it's also important to keep in mind that it was a situation where it was him or foster care. At the time, no one in her mother's family could take her. So it was Sean or foster care. So this was like life or death to me. And it's like, if I call the law on him, which is what the fuck I wanted to do, then he's going to go to jail. And then she's going to go to foster care because I have no rights to her because I'm not her mother and, I have no rights to her. And that's what kept me from calling the cops every single time. Even as it escalated into trying to strangle me within 2 months, it went from a backhand to having me on the bed, choking me out. And it was the creepiest thing I've ever seen. He could fucking choke me to the brink of unconsciousness and not leave a single mark on my neck. Now you tell me he didn't have experience doing that. Oh, wow, I'm shaking. So, as all this is going on, January of 2010 rolls around, I start having severe seizures. Oh, also keep in mind that he was trying to mind fuck me this whole time. It wasn't just physical. There was a lot of, well, I don't love you. Well, motherfucker, I don't love you either. Go on with your bad self. Oh, no, I love you. I don't know why I said that. Or, calling me names. Or even though all I did was sit in the house, do homework, take care of his kid, and go to the fucking bathroom. If I so much as went to the corner store with my grandmother, I was fucking around on him. Like, it was always something. I had to keep him at a safe distance from his daughter because he would hurt her. He had no qualms against hurting this little almost 3-year-old baby. This 350-pound fucking man. So I started having seizures. Well, I mean, what a perfect opportunity to start literally gaslighting me. For anyone who doesn't know where that term comes from, it comes from a movie that I believe came out in the 30s, might have been the 40s, where a husband is trying to make his wife think she's insane, and he keeps dimming the gas lights in the house and telling her, they weren't brighter, they weren't dim, what are you talking about? That's where that term comes from. And I believe in the end, shit, I can't remember the ending because I've watched it. I love old movies. Love them. That's a discussion for another day. Anyway, so he would sit there and tell me we had conversations that I knew we had never had. Then he starts trying to bring in other people and convince me that I talked to someone else in front of him. And when I would ask them right in front of him, like, did this happen? And they'd say no. He'd be like, yes, it did, man. What are you talking about? And it's like, this motherfucker is really insane. Then we come to the fall of I forgot about the miscarriage. I was about 2 months pregnant. He choked me out. Put his full weight on me as he always did. Now keep in mind, I'm sick as a dog. I have no nutrients in my body. Like, I am in bad shape. I'm having seizures all over the place. And I'm talking like 6 to 10 a fucking day I was having. Gee, I wonder why. And I think, in my opinion, allegedly, I had a miscarriage. That I don't think allegedly. That actually happened. I had a miscarriage. And it happened on a night when he choked me out, put his full weight on me, wanted to fucking fight for 5 hours straight. And I don't know what he did when I was unconscious. About 3 hours later, I lose the baby. Well, you better not fucking think you're gonna blame it on me. Either it was my body because I was sick, or motherfucker, it was the fact that, you choked me out. You put all your fucking 350-pound ass on the front of me. And God knows what you did to me when I was unconscious. So yes, it was either the fact that I was sick as a dog, which it could have been. But it could also just as well have been what the fuck he did to me that night. So I have a miscarriage. The little girl was visiting family when this happened, when I went to the hospital, found out I lost the baby, all that. They gave me a bottle of Percocet. So I gave, my grandma some. And I take about 20 of them. And I take them with me. And I go down to this river that was close. It's the Scioto River, but it's a part of it that was close to where Grandma lived at the time. And I just sat there without saying a word all day, watching the river, because it was like, I just lost a baby, and nobody cares. And that's how it was. Like, Grandma cared a little, but she was going through her depression still over losing her house. Grandpa, we didn't know it yet, but we would find out the next year that he had Alzheimer's and that it was pretty bad. And he had already started saying really crazy shit. I don't want to say crazy, but at the time it seemed like, what are you talking about? Because we didn't have the answer yet. Anyway, he did at one point, tell me he was sorry that happened. But they were focused on other things, and that's fine. And then that motherfucker, it was all about him. Of course, it's always all about him. So I refused to talk to him that entire day. I didn't want to fucking talk to anybody. I took the Percocet, I ate them throughout the day, and I watched the river. And at the end of that, I'm like, all right, bury this too. And we left. Within a week, he had left me. And left me with his child. But then wanted to take her back. And that's when I'm like, no. You are not taking her. Either bring your ass home, or I'm bringing her home. So he came back. And I mean, at this point, I hated the very fucking sight of this parasitic piece of shit. But, I forgot to tell y'all about the engagement. About a month after Electra started staying with us to begin with, when she was, dropped off as a little baby, didn't know anybody, he goes out, spends like $50 on this ring from Walmart, has the daughter give it to me, and ask me if I will marry them. Now, how do you tell her no? Of course it was a fucking manipulation tactic, because of course he knew I didn't want to marry him. Why would I? Where is the potential there? But he was trying to do anything to keep me trapped. Okay, so he comes back. I hate the very fucking sight of him. Now, keep in mind, this was also around the time that the song Love the Way You Lie came out. And even though I didn't love anything about him, I will always associate that song with the dirty little secret that I lived in a small house with my family and they never knew. They truly didn't. My grandma suspected, but she did not know what he was doing to me. Now, she did watch me one time push his ass across the dining room floor because he was trying to hold his daughter's mouth shut so that she would swallow her food, and she was choking and he wasn't fucking letting go. So I see this and I rammed him like a goddamn linebacker with every bit of my little 120-pound ass at the time. I ain't no 120 pounds right now. And I got him off of her. This shit was like every day. Every day. Couldn't even trust him to watch her when I took a shower. She had to sit in the bathroom with me. Bearing in mind, I'm having 6 to 10 seizures every day. My Crohn's is still going fucking nuts. Like, I'm still going to school, still getting straight A's. It was a wreck. It was a fucking wreck. And I did not know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to walk away. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what, am I going to have to stay with him until she's 18? Like, am I going to have to live like this for 13 to 15 fucking years? Is this it? Of course I didn't want that. But what was the alternative? You know? So, it just keeps getting worse and worse. In the fall of 2010, I make his fucking ass get out of bed for once and take his child to the park with me because, you know, it was about to be time for it to start getting cold. You can't really take her to the park when it's cold and there's snow everywhere. So I wanted to make sure we got a few good days in. It was perfect fall weather. You know, it was supposed to be a great day. But Princess was pissed off that I made him get out of bed to drive us over there. So he acted like a fucking psycho the whole time. Then he tells us, well, come on, we're going to go to the other park. Because there was when I talked about being by the river, there was a park next to that part of the river. I'm like, fine, okay. So he gets us on a back road that clearly is not the road to the park. Shows me he has a fucking knife and tells me, you know, I could slit your throat and hers before anybody fucking knew. I could be out of the state before anyone realized you guys were missing. And it hits me like, oh, fuck. He could. He truly could. Because my family would have thought that we were out doing stuff. So I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, nah, it ain't going down like this. As he's holding it to my throat, moving it away, fucking reaching back, holding it on Electra. Sorry, I keep saying her name. I shouldn't say her name. I'm not trying to say her name. But yeah, telling me I'm going to kill you both. Well, something made me grab Grandma's cell phone that day. Because I had never had a cell phone at that point. Didn't want one. But something made me grab that phone that day. And I said, listen, motherfucker, you might kill me, whatever, but what you're not going to do is hurt her. And I went to call 911. Because foster care is a horrible option, but it's also better than death. And he slaps the phone out of my hand, turns around, and starts driving back to Grandma's. Now keep in mind, that whole thing lasted about 2 fucking hours of him driving up and down this back road that had a bunch of warehouses on it. No one, we're talking like a Saturday, there was no traffic coming. So, I mean, he could have done exactly what he threatened. But I was also determined that, like I said, he might kill me, but he wasn't getting hurt. So nothing like that happened again after that. But the choking continued, the hitting continued. At one point he tried to drive us into oncoming traffic. Just, you know. And again, on top of that, he's telling me things happened that didn't happen, things I had conversations I didn't have to try to drive me insane, and using my seizures that I'm having so many of because of him to cover that. Swell fucking guy. So we come up on Mother's Day, 2011, right? And he disappears. I'm there with his daughter, and he disappears for the whole day. Calls me that night and says, I'm leaving. I'm done. We're done. I got a new bitch. We're done. And I'm like, okay, but I'm keeping Electra. Well, you can have her for now. And again, here I am, knowing I have no fucking legal rights to this child who called me mama, who I had raised every fucking day for, at that point, over half of her life, and loved with all of my heart and soul. Election. Just random, Tourette's election. Sorry, I'm not trying to mock Tourette's. Anyway, the child had a lot of behavioral problems overall. She had had a lot of trauma. I'm not going to go into all that because it's not my story to tell. Just trust me, it was awful. And from that came a lot of behavioral problems. But when that motherfucker wasn't around that summer, she was as good as gold. And I'm dead serious. And all I did was, put her in the corner, which she hated, by the way. To put her in the corner and ignore her. She would have a fucking breakdown. But it worked. And really, with him gone, she was so good, I don't think I had to put her in the corner that whole summer. And, I spent the whole, he would leave her at the house for a week, come snatch her up for 3 days. While she was at him